Ladies and gentlemen, this is Life Beyond 6 Feet. I'm your host, Damian Christie from Spooky South 507, and today I have a first-time guest of the show, paranormal investigator and author, Miss Cyn Schrader Hill. Cyn, welcome to Life Beyond 6 Feet.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It is an absolute honor to have you on the show, and I've been wanting to get you on for a while. I even wanted to get you on before I ever took a hiatus last year, so it's finally come full circle. So
Yay! We're here. We're here.
exactly. So, like I always like to do, I just want to just jump right into this thing. So, let's kind of backtrack a little bit and just kind of tell me how you got into this paranormal journey you've been on.
I got started late. So I've only been in the paranormal world since 2013.
Oh, wow.
Before that, I was just a weird kid. Yeah, I've not been doing it long. I've not been doing it long, but I've always been weird. Growing up, I was weird. Panic attacks really bad.
Mm,
And it wasn't until 2013 when I was training with the first group that took me in to train me that I was sensitive and I was taking on other people's energy around me. And that's what was giving me all the panic attacks. And I mean,
oh,
some of them were crazy, horrible, like emergency room panic attacks. You think
oh,
you're
wow.
dying,
Oh, man.
heart attack symptoms and everything. And I had my first one when I was 10 years old.
Oh,
And I mean, I'll never forget it. It was Halloween evening, Halloween night, and it was my first time away from my family on Halloween. And it was a big slumber party. One of the girls, it was her birthday, and there were 10 plus 10-year-olds running around, sugared up on Krispy Kreme donuts, Coca-Cola, Sundrop,
oh,
all that kind of, and pizza and all this time, running rampant through this poor lady and gentleman's house. And I had my first panic attack
mm,
and ended up on the floor. And the thing I remember, my best friend leaned over me and said, "Has this ever happened before?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Oh no." But just the "oh no" sounded like dun dun
right.
dun. And I think, "Oh, I'm dying. I'm
Mm,
dying." But you know, fast forward to 2013, and it's because I was taking on, not only had all that energy inside me, but I had all that sugar inside me, and then
right.
everybody excited around me, I was taking that in. It was just too much. So
Wow. That's quite a thing to experience, but then to eventually find out the reasoning behind it. And luckily, it isn't anything just to do with you, like some kind of medical issue. So I guess that's a plus side to it. Um,
yeah.
so as being, as you say, a weird kid, I was a weird kid too. I'm still kind of weird. So what were some like personal experiences that kind of drew you towards the paranormal?
I have always loved scary stuff. I've always loved being scared. I've always liked to have, go to haunted houses, something jump out at you, and you go, "Oh, okay." Yeah.
Right.
I've always liked the jump scares in
Hmm.
movies and all that stuff. Was reading Edgar Allan Poe in the third grade. So my bedtime story when I was 8 years old and before, my grandmother, we were living in her house and I slept with her. So every night she had to tell me a bedtime story to get me to shut up and go to sleep. And it was about my great uncle that was coming home horseback riding in the rain, and it was like, I think it was only like 20 minutes from where I live now, not very far at all. But it was a very stormy night. He was riding home, and it was such a torrential downpour that he ducked into this little church. And back then, nothing was locked. So he just tied his horse up outside and went into the dark church and sat down into the pew. The only thing that would light it up would be the lightning strikes, right? And he was a scaredy cat. So this is another reason I love this story. And actually, this is in my first book. This was the very first story I put in my first book, my bedtime story. So he's sitting in the church waiting for the rain to stop, and he hears this shuffle behind him. And footsteps. And he's like, nah, that's the rain. And then he hears it again and it's closer. And whenever the dark lights up, he looks around, he can't see anything. There's nothing in the church. But then he hears the shuffle again, and it gets closer and closer and closer until this woman grabs him
Mm.
from around the back to hug him, scared him to death, just about. But lit, it was this lady that had escaped from the local poor farm,
Mm.
and she was mentally unstable and was out in the rain and ducked into the church just like he did. But he had no idea. And he, being a scaredy cat, scared him to death. But my grandmother always ended this story with, now, boo. Okay, go to bed, go to sleep. And I could sleep after that.
Wow.
So, right? Kind
So
of a
kind
weird
of
kid.
so being scared helped you sleep. I don't think a lot of people like to be scared in order to go to bed. So
I don't think
that's
so
that's
either, but I
that's
calmed
definitely a
down.
different way.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching horror movies before I go to
Hmm.
sleep. I love them. I
Right.
love them. Watching one last night, so
Right.
have to queue one up for tonight too. But yeah, that's how I relax.
Well, there you go. So before you actually started investigating, did you have any personal paranormal experiences that just kind of stand out to you, or do they really just start happening when you started investigating?
I was not as open to everything as I am now. So anything that I saw or experienced, um, I didn't recognize it as paranormal. I've been to so many different haunted places: Alcatraz, Birdcage Theater, um, Alamo, overseas, been to some over there. But because I wasn't wrapped up in investigating, I wasn't looking for anything. And
Hmm.
so, you would walk into these places and the atmosphere was different,
Right.
obviously different, but I wasn't looking for anything, any haunting. So, um, I, I guess it's, you know, I guess the first things that started happening to me before I got involved in this was seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Something moves and you turn and it's not there. Okay, that was in my head, right?
Hmm.
Something else, uh, that was in my head too. So I just played it off until I realized that there were things going on around me. When I was a little girl, we lived in a house that was built in the late 1800s, and it was actually moved on logs rolled down the hill to resituate and to set up a new residence. And that house, my mom still lives in it.
Hmm.
But where my bedroom was, something about it, I still don't know. I still have the feeling when I go in that room that something is in there. It's not anything antagonistic, nothing dangerous, nothing like that, but it's just that you're being watched.
Hmm.
You Growing up as a kid and then up into teenage years, I couldn't get dressed in that room. It just something about it. Yeah, I'm gonna get dressed in the closet. I had a big walk-in closet. I could get dressed in there or in the bathroom next door. But when I was little, I would turn all my stuffed animals around and all of my dolls because
Hmm.
I had a big doll collection. So since then, I don't have those dolls anymore, except for two that my grandmother gave me. But something I feel like was attached to one of those things I had, and I don't know which one it was. It's not the two
Oh,
I have.
right.
It's not the two I have. But yeah, it's just something about that house is just a little bit weird, like me.
Well, there you go. It goes hand in hand, I guess. And
Right?
I've lived in a lot of not really weird places, but I've pretty much experienced something pretty much everywhere I've ever lived and never really thought much of it until I got into my adult years and actually started doing this a few years ago. And when you mentioned a minute ago seeing stuff out of the corner of your eyes, it reminded me of something that had happened to me at work last night. I'm sitting there, I'm getting ready to roll something to the back room, and I get about halfway turned towards the back room door, and I swear to you, it looks like I see somebody's head poking out of the back room. And like as soon as I get fully turned around, like it darts back, but I see enough of it that I could tell it was a white guy with like shaggy, dirty blonde hair. And
Wow.
so I kind of stood there for a second and went on back in there. And as soon as I walked through the doors, like instant cold chills, the hair on my arm stood up. And I'm looking around like our back room right now was like packed. So I'm like, there's nowhere anybody could have ran and hid. And what makes it a little bit more interesting is before I started there, a former employee that worked there, she had told me that she swore that she seen somebody on camera and wearing all black go into our back room. And she rewound the camera and she's like, there was nobody there.
Huh.
And
What
so
was
it's,
what was the back room before?
I don't know, I mean, it may have just been trees. I mean, so it was
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
so my friends on the other podcast I do, Beer, Booze, and Boogeyman, they kind of called me a ghost magnet because I have stuff happen to me pretty much everywhere I live, everywhere I work. I've had some kind of experience there. So it just yeah. So you kind of answered my next question a few minutes ago when you started investigating in 2013. So what made you decide you wanted to start doing this?
All of the shows on TV. I was tired of having to watch all the shows and wait
Right.
until the week for the next one to come out. And I was like, you know what? I should have my team. I should have my own team. And I just didn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So my cousin actually had her art studio investigated down here. And I found out after the fact, and I was like, what? You didn't invite me. You didn't invite me. I wanted to be there. So I got the same group that she had asked to come down, and it was Ghost Hunters of Southern Tennessee up in McMinnville,
Mm-hmm.
James Jones and Wayne Baker. And we've lost Wayne. We lost Wayne this past year, but
Yeah.
um, Wayne is actually the one that told me the very first person that ever told me that I was sensitive
Oh,
and I could feel what was going on. And he would take me on the investigations and walk with me, and he'd go, okay, where should we go next? And I, let's go over here. Something's over here. And he goes, okay, okay, what are you feeling? And that kind of thing. And just kind of picking up on different ideas with him, learning how to use that sensitivity.
right.
I was with them for a few months as case manager, and I would find places for us to go investigate and got involved in that. But the whole time, I knew I wanted my own team. And while I was with them, they got two EVPs at when they came to investigate my mom and dad's old store. We lost dad in 2001. So mom and my sister tried to keep it open a little bit longer, but auto parts store, Southern
Mm-hmm.
State, O'Reilly's,
Yeah.
Advanced, Walmart, everybody selling auto parts. And they didn't want to come to two women, even though Susan knew her crap with
Right.
cars and small engines and stuff. She still does. But they ended up having to close after a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, and kept the utilities on for a little while. But when I had this team down in 2013, the utilities had been off for a couple of years, if not more than that. And my husband had actually cleaned everything out, everything. This big building before my mom and dad had it was a furniture building, and then before that, there was a Red Cross building in it, and an ice cream factory. The basement was a turkey slaughterhouse
Mm.
in the 1800s. So there were still two big concrete vats in the basement of this place, which used to be street level. So that's how much the road built up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came in, they only got two EVPs. One was this weird, really weird holy mackerel, which nobody in my family said. But it kind of sounds like maybe 1950s before,
Right.
something like that. So, whoever said that was probably residual. The only other one they caught was the turkeys clucking in the basement.
Oh, wow.
So we had turkey ghosts gobbling.
Wow.
And if you can imagine, it wasn't a good day for them. It
Right.
was it's like their worst day on earth.
Right.
So I don't know what all they were saying, but it wasn't good, I'm sure. So I got so involved with that. I wanted to find those voices.
Hmm.
And I started really, my first piece of equipment was a digital recorder. And then the Spirit Box got me a PSP7. And I was glued to that stuff, glued. And I could hear things easier than other people could for some reason. You know how some people can see things better and some
Hmm.
people get things. Well, I could hear the Spirit Box voices coming through better. And so that was my thing. And when I separated from them, I already had the name in my head, Elk Valley Paranormal EVP.
Hmm.
So it was just perfect for me. And so
Right.
EVP came about.
And so when did you start your actual team?
That was in the late 20, no, it was 2014.
And still going strong, huh?
Yeah. I mean, 2020 kind of hit everybody, and
Yeah.
I did a lot of teaching people how to smudge their own homes,
Hmm.
and a couple of Zoom chats to get them through some things. But
Right.
um, other than that, we got started up again, and then I was training my nephew to be the videographer. We had changed videographers, and Wyatt was my baby. And it's my sister's son, the only
Hmm.
only one. He's the only grandson, the only nephew, so he was spoiled just a little
Right.
bit. But he was my mini me, and he did everything with me and liked all the stuff I did. So he was going to be the videographer. And in April 2022, we lost him,
Oh,
an
man.
accident. And so um, we're still not over that. It won't ever
Right.
be. Um, but I was writing the fourth book. It was It's Not Goodbye, Signs from Beyond. I'd started it in 2020 and then hadn't gotten it done by 2022. I'd started writing it again when he was training with us, and then he died, and it kind of went on hiatus again.
Right.
So it wasn't until 2 or 3 weeks after that I realized the reason I lost motivation those first 2 years is because his story is supposed to be in that book.
Mm.
So the book's dedicated to him, and the first story in the book after the intro is Wyatt's. And um, God, it's just something that you never get over. You you expect to lose older people,
Hmm.
but young ones it just doesn't seem right.
Right.
Even though, there's got to be a reason for everything.
Hmm.
There's got to be. I don't know what that reason is,
And
and I
it
don't
and
know if
it
we ever
it, it
will.
always makes it much worse when it's extremely unexpected. At
Oh God,
least,
yeah.
at least when they're sick, you kind of have
A time to get
a time to
ready.
kind of get ready and kind of prepare. But like when it's unexpected like that, like I lost a cousin about 4 years ago, just completely unexpected. And, she was younger than I was. And it's just like, what the hell was that about? It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
it's crazy.
And
So,
you don't get over that, and
mm-mm.
you don't get over hurting.
So let's talk about your books. You were just talking about, your book you're writing, your fourth book. You've written three in the process of writing four. So how did you begin writing books, and why did you decide to start writing books?
I'm gonna correct you. I've
Oh,
written five. I've written
oh,
five.
oh, you've written five. See, that's why I don't research because I don't know everything.
All good. It's all good. And I'm working on number 6, 7, and 8 right now, all at
Holy
the same
shit.
time because
Wow.
it's all different. But I can't do my 6, 7, or 8 until I get this my friend's cookbook done. So what happens is in 2018, I'm editing my one of my very best friends in the whole wide world's book, Mark Elliott Foltz, and he is the one that actually does the covers of mine and the illustrations in them.
Mm.
And so I was working on his. I helped him with one. He sent me another one to do. I was editing that. And on the second or third one I was working on, he goes, "When are you going to get yours out?" And I said, I don't really know how to go about that. And he said, "You've got stories and you need to get them out now. It's time. Go ahead and just do it. Just jump in." And so 2018, I wanted to get their speaking, Are You Listening? My most compelling EVPs. I wanted that one to be my first book, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to wait on that one. And instead, I brought out Whispers in the Dark, True Ghost Stories and Eerie Tales. That's the one that's got my bedtime story in it for the first one. And there's 23 short stories in it. Most of them are here in Lincoln County, and they've either happened to me, my team, or friends of mine around this area. And then there's 2 that are in Lynchburg, where Jack Daniels is made,
Mm-hmm.
at the old haunted home
Oh,
there.
that place is crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got 2 stories in there about it. They're just wicked. And then when I was on vacation once, another one was when I lived in Arizona, and then a girl that was on my team had a couple of stories in there. So the Lynchburg one is actually in one chapter, the 2 stories about it. But the second book I brought out, Mark and I just wanted to see if we could write some fiction. So we did. We did a
Mm-hmm.
fiction book. It's the only fiction book I have. And he wrote 4 of the stories. I wrote 8, and we put it out that next year. I finally figured out how to do the third book. So it's about my investigations, the ones that got the most evidence and were
Mm-hmm.
the ones that stuck out the most. And you can go on elkvalleyparanormal.com to the evidence section and the drop down menu and pull down their speaking and listen to all of the EVPs in that third book.
Oh, wow.
So finally got that done. And then God put in my lap that I just needed to do a signs book, and I didn't have enough to do signs. And like I told you, it was put off for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I got stories from all over the U.S. and one even from England about
Wow.
signs from our loved ones. Even cats and dogs coming back and visiting after they die. Um, coins that we find, feathers, songs that come on the radio, cologne, even dreams and visions and things like that, near-death experiences. So I got so many of those that when that one came out, I had more people reaching out and saying, "I got a story for you." So my second signs book will be out as whenever I can get the cookbook finished.
Right.
Um, the 5th book I wrote was some of the darker things I've seen
Mm.
in investigations, and a lot of my friends that have had some really, really odd things happen on investigations. So that one is Realm of Shadows, True Ghost Stories and Eerie Tales. But I've got coming out next is Death's Door, Near Death Experiences, angel warnings or angel visitations or rescues, and I can't think what I wrote down. Anyway, Death's Door,
Right.
and the second signs book, and then a third dark stories
Oh,
coming
wow.
out. Yeah.
Now, the second signs book, is that what I submitted some stories to?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I think I remember like the name of the book, and I was like, well, I have a couple of stories that would probably fit this profile. So and so I look forward to that coming out, and I need to get into more reading because I have a ton of people that I'm friends with that write books. I'm just like, man, I just don't have the time to sit down and read like I used to.
Right,
And
right.
and I've tried sitting down and putting all my personal experiences from age like 3, the very first thing I can remember, up until now, trying to put it all to paper, and I get so sidetracked.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be banging stuff out, and then all right, I'm done for the night, and then something the next day happens. Well, I'll work on it tomorrow, and the tomorrow comes. Well, I'll work on it tomorrow, and like the last time I done it, I probably wrote, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 pages, and I have no clue what even happened to it. I thought I put it on a flash
Oh, no.
drive, and then we moved, and I can't find the flash drive, and yeah. So I'm like, that's awesome. So now I got to try to remember how I worded all this stuff again, and
Right.
yeah.
You
So
know, when I first started writing, I had no idea how to start. Had none. I knew how to edit things. I knew how to correct grammar and things like that.
right.
But, getting your thoughts out on paper. So I learned that I took a crash course on how to write your first book. It was like a virtual thing, and I
Hmm.
listened to videos and I was like, oh, okay, I like that idea and I can do that. But one thing that I learned from this guy is that you give yourself maybe 30 minutes and you sit down and just start writing. And I use just an old school notebook, you know, just and start writing, writing,
Hmm.
writing, writing. And the thing is, you don't correct yourself as you go. You don't, um, worry about things being disjointed because you've got something called copy and paste
Hmm.
that you can move things around later on. But I wrote everything out and went through all kinds of. I'd lose ink and have to get another pen and
Hmm.
start. And now you can read it back instead of typing it,
Hmm.
and your computer will transcribe it for you.
Right.
I love technology when it works.
Right.
Yeah, and then you can copy paste all that kind of stuff. So yeah, get writing again.
But see,
Just do it.
I've always really enjoyed writing, and like all through high school, I wrote a ton of poetry, like kind of, wouldn't call it like dark poetry, but was kind of on the darker side. Like a lot of it was, now that I look back on it, kind of paranormally themed. Um, and like I wrote one that was called Dear Ghost, and it was I don't even remember what it was about. And I wrote another one called Earth is Dying. Pretty much it was about like the apocalypse. And
Wow.
and actually I think I got that one published in a book that I've lost along the way throughout the years. And so I found myself easier to write that because I took creative writing like my senior year of high school, aced that class, and like writing stuff like that, I guess for me is easier than writing my own personal stuff down. And like I even tried to start writing my own book. I had came up with a name for it, and I came up with a backstory, and got about 10 pages into that, and I actually found that on my old laptop, and it was going to be called When Hell Howls, and it was going to be about this dude who is being like tortured by this witch and all this other stuff, and I just, God, I started doing that probably 10 years ago, and I just stopped.
But it's still there. It's
Yeah.
still there. You could
So
bring you could bring it all out.
yeah. So maybe one day I'll have, when I actually take vacation from work, and I actually take a vacation. I don't stay busy my entire vacation, like doing errands and chores and everything. Um, so I'm going to talk about something that's kind of right above my head. Um, you've actually been to the Night House, correct?
I have, and I'm going this weekend as well.
See, he had invited me to that, and I'm like, well, I can't go because
Oh,
episode 7 of Fear, Buzzing Boogeyman is Saturday. So, and which I told him that, I told Eric, I was like, the house is only like an hour, less than an hour and a half from where I live. I was like, I might just come up randomly one day and check it out. I was like, or I may just wait and keep the anticipation until September. So now, when you went, did you just go just to check it out because you're friends with Eric, or did you like actually help investigate it, or like how? What was your thoughts there? Like what happened?
Yeah, he set a time for us to come up to do the inaugural investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I don't know if you know Regina Blatt and Lee
Mm-hmm.
Pig.
Yep, I'm good friends with both of them. So.
Well, Regina got to come. Lee was busy, could not get away from work, but Regina was there, and another girl from her team,
Mm-hmm.
um, me and my husband, and Eric. I think, yeah, because Roger was there for a little while, but didn't stay for the investigation.
Right.
And then we actually had Mark, my friend, the
Mm-hmm.
writer and medium, he did a remote for us.
Oh
And
wow.
then we had him on camera taking him through the house after he did the remote. And he would say, "What? Stop, stop. All right, turn to your left. Okay, go up 2 steps, turn." And this kind of thing. And you go, "Okay, there's your energy spot." So that was interesting.
Wow.
That was interesting. Um, I didn't hear a lot, but others that were there heard footsteps and mumbling. Um, I was waiting for the big stuff. I even went in the bathroom with the lights all off,
Mm-hmm.
hoping something would touch or,
Right.
whatever. I just, no, it didn't happen, but it's not to say that it can't.
Right. And
You never know.
I told Eric in the last episode I did with him that this is new to all the spirits there. So I'm like they're probably still a little bit shy, and of course him and his husband and his in-laws and stuff renovating it. Of course, it's probably stirred a little bit of stuff up, and they've been unearthing all these different artifacts and everything. And I'm like by the time we get there, like I think it's going to be a pretty good night. At least I'm hoping for it anyway.
I
But
hope so too. I
you
hope so
know,
too.
and just like you said, mentioned the TV shows. As doing this, it's nothing like the TV shows.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
so I'm like, it's like I really hope it's not like a completely dead night because
I I don't think it will be. I think it was for us because he even talked to the spirit saying, I know you're not used to our equipment. I know you're not used to
mhm,
this, but this is what this is for, and just kind of talked like they were right there going, okay,
right,
what's this for? That kind of
right.
thing. So
So
I think they were more standoffish, but watching because you could feel eyes,
right,
and you knew something was around you, even though you couldn't see.
hmm
Um, I think Cassie, that was on Regina's team, I believe
hmm
she saw after we went to bed, Regina left and Cassie stayed in the parlor. Greg and I were in one of the bedrooms, and Eric was in the master. And Cassie said she saw a man up in the parlor sitting there. Didn't do anything, just she saw the shadow of
right,
someone. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to show themselves more to individuals
hmm
than a big group of people. However, waited until everybody was outside. It was still daylight, but I went all the way around the house because he's actually had things happen during the day
hmm
there because he would go into the bathroom and have a knock on the door, and
yeah,
all everybody else is outside, things like that. But I went all over the house from the attic all the way down to the cellar and taking pictures, all everything. And I weeded them out, and I do have the album on Elk Valley Paranormal on Facebook, the Night House. So if you and any of your listeners want to look through that,
okay,
just go to the albums there. Um, but nothing, I had nothing happen except you could tell you were not alone.
Right.
So hopefully by the time you get there, they'll be more used to people coming in and out and
Right.
asking.
Because I know we've mentioned they're not going to be doing it every weekend. I think it's going to be like every other weekend. So by the time we get there, they should hopefully have maybe 8, 10 investigations or so probably run through there. So hopefully,
Because yours is on the 28th of September, right?
yep. So this will be Gil and Joey's very first investigation because they're not investigators. They're just, you know, paranormal geeks like you and me, but they have their own podcast. And so this is going to be their first investigation. And I think it's going to be Kristen's, I think, sixth investigation. So she's getting on up there. And I know she's really looking forward to it. And for her to be flying clear across the country for this, I think it's
I love
amazing of her to
her.
do. So
I
it's
really love.
gonna,
I really like
it,
her.
she's pretty awesome. And other than Gil and Joey, who live like practically next door to each other, none of us have ever met like in person. So
That's awesome.
it's going to be a fun time. And so I am going to do a quick little plug. So anybody listening,
Yes.
September 28th, Beer, Booze, and Boogeyman will be investigating the Night House in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. We're going to be doing actually our show before that investigation. So we're going to be doing our normal show, and then right after we wrap, we're going to have everything set up and ready to go. Eric's going to be letting us come in pretty early to get everything set up because we plan on having cameras and mics pretty much everywhere in the house, and it's going to be a little bit different than most investigations. Like people that contribute to our Indiegogo campaign are going to be the ones investigating. They're telling us what to do. So
That'll be fun.
it'll be different for me, and I'm sure it'll be different for Kristen since she's been on a few herself. So, anybody that contributes at least $25, they get to actually participate in the investigation. You can donate any amount you want, but anybody that donates at least 25 will be able to tell us, hey, go in this room for 30 minutes without a flashlight and just sit in the dark and see what happens. Or, hey, Kristen, go to the attic and take a REM pod and see what goes on. And so they kind of get to tell us what to do. They ask the questions. Like they're the investigators.
That's going to be different. That's going to be nice.
And like I said, we'll have cameras set up everywhere. So if we're all in this room over here and somebody's tuned in watching this room over here and something crazy's happened, and they can tap in and say, hey, something's going on in room B. Somebody might want to go check it out. So, and we plan to keep some of the cameras rolling even after we go to bed.
Yeah,
So
I would.
So even at 5 o'clock in the morning when we're all hopefully asleep, somebody could jump in and be watching these certain rooms and message, hey, you guys may want to check this out, during review because some crazy shit happened to this room at 5:02 in the morning. So, and we have a ton of perks and stuff for people that are able to contribute. Even the people that only donate like $5. We have, stuff we're going to be able to do for them. We do have one that it'd be awesome if somebody did it, but we have one perk, one tier that as long as, they would have to pay their way, but they would get to come be there in person with us. So anybody listening that's in Tennessee or Kentucky, if you want to come be part of an investigation, jump on our Indiegogo and go ahead and purchase that tier because it's only one available because I know it's only going to be a limited amount of space there. So I just wanted to toss that out there. So what do you have upcoming here anytime soon other than the release of some of your books? Like any events or conventions, anything?
Yeah, I other than going to the Night House this weekend that you can't go to.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. I've got a public hunt, Bell Witch Cave, going to that Eric and Regina and Lee are going to be. So that's on the 17th. I can't wait. I've not been there. So
you've never been to the cave?
No, lived here all my life. I know. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? And then in September on the 26th, I'll be at Athens State in Alabama storytelling. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, nice.
Then The 5th of October, I'll be at the Green Eyes Festival in Chickamauga, Georgia. And on the 12th at Haunted Graves Paracon in Mayfield, Kentucky.
Nice.
Selling my
Well,
books.
there you go. Well, hopefully on September 28th, you can dive in and tell me where to go and tell Kristen what to do. So,
Right? Yeah.
so if anybody wants to buy any of your books, how can they do that?
I am on Amazon, self-published, so you can look for Cyn Schrader Hill. And I'm on Facebook, Cyn Schrader Hill author. You can find Elk Valley Paranormal on Facebook, or also go to our website, elkvalleyparanormal.com. And if you need to reach out to me and have a story that you would love for me to hear, possibly put in a book, then reach me at cynschraderhillauthor@gmail.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome stuff. So to wrap this up, I want you to tell me the one thing that stands out to you that's probably scared you the most or startled you the most or just left you with like kind of one of those what the fuck type moments.
Ooh, I got two of those actually. So one thing that's happened to me 3 times is the feeling of being rushed. And I can't see what's there, but something is all of a sudden up on me. And it's like they're screaming at the top of their lungs, but I can't hear a thing. It's just, you feel the vibration. It is so much anger in it that you can feel it. So I've had that uh, twice at the old hospital and once on vacation. That was weird. Made my husband go with me to find some sage the next day, and now
Right?
I don't go anywhere without a smudge stick ever.
I don't blame you.
But the only other thing that weirded me out was seeing something that wasn't human, and it was in reflection. So I didn't, when I turned to look at it, it wasn't there, but it was in this really shiny desk I was sitting at an old business, and this black cloud with eyes floated over me. And I had never seen anything like that. Haven't seen it since, but it was a little bit of a trickster that was causing all kinds of havoc at this hometown business. And he shows up on camera and just terrorizes customers sometimes.
Wow.
But seeing that thing was shocking. That was pretty shocking.
I bet that's pretty wild.
I,
And I think that ends on a good note. So I just went blank. Happens quite often when I'm doing the show because I'm trying to read what I've typed out and I'm trying to talk at the same time. So anyway, Cyn, thank you so much. Everybody, go check out her books, buy her books. If you have a really interesting story, hit her up because it may make it into one of her books that she may be putting out soon. So again, everybody, Cyn Schrader Hill, author, paranormal investigator. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll catch everybody next time and stay spooky.